از جی دیرو پتبلیگو نخوابیم.
باش بده. تمام کن گما دیدی
تمام
سکه.
از آمادم. My name is Hêlîn Qereçox. My name from before was Anna Campbell. I joined the YPG in March of last year, and now we've just finished this education of ideology and military. It was a month and a half long, and I enjoyed it very much and learned a lot. And now we're going to go to the Cephe of Afrin. So I joined because I wanted to support the revolution, and because I wanted to participate in the revolution of women that is being built up here, and fight and join also the weaponized fight against the forces of fascism and the enemies of the revolution. And so now I'm very happy and proud to be going to Afrin, to be able to do this. The attacks of the Turkish state against the revolution and against the Kurdish people and the people of Kurdistan are very shocking and heavy, and I'm happy to join my friends to defend ourselves and our revolution against these enemies. So I've already been in the Cephe of Deir ez-Zor, and I know how hard it can be in many different ways, in a lot of ways that I was not expecting as well. But I'm really excited to go and join so many brave friends that are fighting there now. And with the memory of the friends that have fallen Shehîd in this operation and in the whole war, then I will fight even stronger. Second thing.
Anna Campbell ku li seranserî rojava wekî Hêlîn Qereçox tê nasîn, di sala 1991 de li başûrê Brîtanyayê li bajarê Lewis rojhilatê Sussex ji dayîk bû. Di sala 2010 de Anna wê perwerdeya xwe ya li zanîngeha Sheffield berdewam dikir. Dema protesteyên xwendekaran hatin avakirin, keseyeta Anna duwarê siyasî de bêhtir balkêş bû.
So I first met Anna nearly 9 years ago now. We're both from the UK. We actually met in Europe for the first time, working on the same project there, which was a solidarity project with people without papers trying to travel through Europe. So we met together doing that work. Anna at the time was in university. It was summer. And she was technically in university at the time, but by the end of the summer she'd quit university and decided she wasn't going back. So I never really knew her in university. And we then stayed in touch ever since. We worked on a lot of other projects together, made a lot of actions together. We were both part of a resistance against the quite a large eviction that took place against a community of Irish travellers in the UK. We spent a lot of time together there because there was a permanent presence to resist the eviction. So we worked together on that. After that, Anna was living in the south of England. She was squatting a lot and moving around, doing different actions and different kinds of organising. A lot of that organising I was also part of, and we shared. We didn't live in the same city, but we stayed in touch. We saw each other on actions and things like that, and we also stayed in touch as friends and had a close relationship and a lot of mutual friends. When I think about Anna, I don't just think about one person or a one-on-one relationship. Our relationship was very much part of a group. I think about a whole crew of people when I think about Anna, and that time, you know, she will always be a connection to that time and those other people for me as well.
Yeah, so like it may be like 2009, 2010, as I was getting ready for university, we had like the student protest. So that's probably when I started like getting more and more active into politics. So a lot of my friends are like hunt saboteurs, of course. A lot of my friends are involved in like the anarchist Black Cross, things like that, and like other structures that I probably shouldn't mention at the moment. I won't mention people's names.
I knew Şehîd Hêlîn from in the UK when we had organised together, mostly around anti-fascist work and also around anti-hunting work. We were both members of a group that went out to prevent fox hunts from happening. And so through that we'd spent a lot of time like running around the countryside physically opposing those fox hunts. And we'd also, to a lesser extent, worked together physically opposing fascist organising in the UK. Primarily my involvement to that was going along to fascist events and marches to try and stop them from taking place, or at least to stop them from harming the communities they were happening in. And so I'd known Anna through that as well.
Probably like the student protests is like, for me it was the gateway into like into sort of speaking to anarchists and like anti-fascists and then getting involved in that. And I know for her for sure it was the same. I know that through the 2010 student protests, like she was involved in it before, but she wasn't as heavily involved in it. And I think she made a lot of contact, shall we say, like through the protests. I think this is where we this is one thing that she said to me was like in the protests you had all these like mass groups, like these WhatsApp groups where people were able to like self-organise like straight away, similar to the way that during the Arab Spring like Egyptian people or whatever were able to organise mass demonstrations like straight away. So she was like, this is the way that people were able to mobilise. So you had all these different like groups in touch with each other. Obviously you had a lot of different anarchist groups, a lot of communist groups, even like centrist and like liberal students. And I suppose in a way they're probably like spurred on by the anti-fascists. I think the anti-fascists and the anarchists are probably at the forefront of like that sort of demonstration. It's not like I wouldn't say it's like unpeaceful demonstration, but it's not like civilized demonstration, if that makes sense, in the respect that like the Stop the War coalition is or whatever. So I think for her that's probably what like radicalised her a lot more into politics. And I know from that point on that's probably like what gave her the self-confidence to be able to take part in some of these other demonstrations. I think that was a lot of people's wake-up calls. Without her doing that, she wouldn't have had the bottle to do things like Dale Farm, which I didn't even know until she told me that she was involved with, and I was like, whoa. And then some of the other friends that were here that were at Dale Farm, like Şehîd Hêlîn Qereçox, he was at Dale Farm. He was at like the anti-fracking protests. He was like squatting at the camps. Like without like the 2010 student protests, you wouldn't have any of these other movements. I don't think people would have realised that the power is within their hands. Like, obviously voting does absolutely nothing, but like mass demonstration and mass protests, that's crucial. And then the next step up from that is direct action, which we're all doing here now. So
Di sala 2014 de bi şerê Daişê re gihîşt xaneka girîng. Anna dest pê kir ku bala xwe bide serbijî berxwedana Kurd li hember cihadîstê. Salên dawî wê di navbera xwe de bi xwe re nîqaş kir ku li ser berxwedana li Bakur û Rojhilatê Sûrî dest pê bike.
I'd been thinking about coming to Kurdistan for a while, and when I mentioned this to her, I found that she had been having similar thoughts. And so we decided that we would come together. Hêlîn was always a revolutionary, and she always wanted a revolution within the UK that would free the people living there from the oppressive structures that we live under. And coming here was a chance to support other people doing that, and also to see what that would look like on the ground, and to learn from how things were being done here, and to learn the skills and the ideology that we would need to create a revolution at home as well. And I think she was particularly inspired by the women's movement here. She often talked, when we were emailing each other when she was here, about the EPG, the self-defence for the communes, and how those have taken mostly elderly women who are normally extremely disenfranchised in this society, but also in all others, and had invested in them the power and the responsibility to protect their communities.
حياة سالة 2017 أو لقل دلخوازين بريطاني بو دداوية دا بريار دا دفج إنجلاند برده وبچه سوریای داکو بشتاری شورش ببه. هوال طول هلدانش دست به کاریویتیا وان ره با آناره بو.
So we travelled together from Bristol by train and then by plane to a third country, and then was smuggled across the border. And we were both very excited for a lot of that. I think also it was a difficult journey, particularly for Hêlîn, because as a woman she was separated off in the third country and so had to deal with being much more isolated than I was. And I think also we were both a little nervous. It was a big step that we were taking, and particularly the last part of the journey was technically challenging. But it was exciting to actually be coming here and living according to our beliefs and finding a way to be revolutionaries in a new way.
So I didn't actually know she was coming before she came. I spoke to her and it was like, hi, so I'm already in Syria. And I was one of the people that didn't get warning. We didn't see each other face to face, and she was very careful with security and things like that, so she didn't really have a chance to tell me. But once I found out, and once I, partly because of that, started to learn more about the movement here, of course it made complete sense that she would be here. Anna was never preachy or anything like that, but she had a very clear ideology, and she really wanted to live what she believed in. And when something like this happened, and the values that were trying to be built up here were what she believed in, and there was also a kind of possibility, an invitation, a connection that made it possible for her to come and be part of that. Of course, it made sense that she would want to come and be part of the revolution here. It's hard to imagine her taking another path if this was an option for her. It's hard to imagine what else she would have done.
Just before me and Hêlîn crossed into Rojava, there was a Turkish airstrike against the centre that was being used to coordinate the liberation of Raqqa, in which I think around 20 friends were killed. And that centre was on the mountain of Qereçox. And so a number of us, including me and her, took the surname Qereçox to commemorate those martyrs and to show defiance to the Turkish state that we would take forwards the struggle of those friends, and that airstrike wasn't going to stop us liberating Raqqa and wasn't going to stop us from liberating Kurdistan.
Anna beştari ye pejebu hezin parastna jin yen ku li dijî Daişê şer kirin.
I remember really, really well when the first time I met Şehîd Hêlîn. I was in the Internationalist commune, and the Internationalist commune was still in Campbell, and like in the zone close to the train station, and I was in there. Was beginning of summer, and we were sitting down in the terrace that was in our place, and she came already dressed up with the uniform of JPG, really friendly, really open, like trying to meet the friends and asking and presenting herself. She was really excited. And
I wasn't actually aware that it was her, like at the time when I first met her in Rojava. And she was like, don't you remember me? And I was like, not really. And she was like, oh, you know so-and-so? You were like here? And I was like, okay. And then I remembered her then. But it's like only in passing, so Yeah, I remembered it from like a few different protests that we've been to back in the UK. And then obviously when I saw her here, we started talking more and more, because in my sort of circle of friends, I was probably the most political at the time, and like my sort of comrades that I was with, the Western friends, they weren't really political as such. So I don't know. I had she was sort of like my outlet to be able to like talk to about like politics and about the revolution, and to help develop my ideology more. Because even though I had my ideology when I came here, like obviously my ideology was like growing. I was learning like new things and new perspectives on things and new paradigms. So like Şehîd Hêlîn, her like main nokta when she wasn't on the front was in Şidadi, and obviously the international Tabor's nokta was in Şidadi. So myself and Navali Argesh, we used to go around like literally every single night with Hevel Roni as well. Hevel Roni used to like come with us, and then we'd obviously go around for a chai or whatever. And then when Hevel Roni like went home, we continued to keep going around to Şehîd Hêlîn's nokta. And yeah, I mean, she just taught me lots of things about the culture. Obviously, me being like a silly Westerner, an Ajnabi, as you would say. Like there's a lot of social faux pas that like I didn't even realise that I was committing, and then she'd like point them out to you, but she'd like try and point them out to you in a very discreet way. But you weren't getting the fact that she was trying to point something out to you like very discreetly. So in the end, she'd have to be absolutely blatant, and I think I embarrassed her quite a lot, to be honest with you. But yeah, as I say, I mean, she's another person that like absolutely helped me develop my understanding of what feminism is. I think I had a very warped perception of what feminism is as a whole, even like amongst leftists in my country especially. It's still like quite patriarchal, even though they think that they're more equal towards women than anything. So a lot of the leftist views that I sort of had, she like helped me correct those. She helped me see things from a completely different perspective.
So when Hêlîn first got here, there wasn't a proper structure in place for international women in the EPG. And so at first there was a wait before she found training, and then she went on a course where she learnt Kurdish. And then after that, she went on a military training, which was in Kurdish, which I imagine was quite challenging. But I think she was very glad to be finally doing the military training at that point. And the EPG are very into training. They put a really heavy emphasis on education and preparation. And she said she asked her commander once why this was, when, for example, my unit did our 28 days and went straight to the front. And the commanders were explaining that when they're training the women generally, they come to them not believing in themselves and not believing that they can do things. And so they find it very important to train them a lot, so to teach them that they have these abilities and that they can do the things, and to build that confidence in themselves as revolutionaries. Which I think in Anna's case, she already had a lot of confidence in herself as a revolutionary. She was always very aware of her potential and her abilities. And I don't know, she struggled a lot with self-doubts afterwards, but I think she always knew that she could be a full revolutionary. And so I think for her that was a slightly frustrating process, because she always wanted to be going and doing the work. She didn't want to just come here and learn things and take things from the friends. She wanted to be giving back and contributing to the revolution.
So Şehîd Hêlîn was really, she had a name and was a big part about the institution of the JPG. She was really, really wanted to struggle for the freedoms of the woman, not only in Rojava, but also as a global concept. So the time that she spent here was always with the objective, with a clear aim, and she passed through different phases. In the first time, she went to learn Kurdish in an academy in Derek, and she spent a lot of time with the friends that they were in there. They were mostly teachers that they were seeing ideological education in this academy. So while she was studying Kurdish and putting a lot of effort to learn Kurdish as quickly as possible, she was also learning from society, learning with the society of Rojava, what are the expectations of the youth of Rojava, how people's dreams in Rojava. So it was in some way a really important phase also for her to be in this Kurdish academy, even if sometimes was a little bit stuck, because you have to pass a lot of time inside the academy and maybe you cannot go out as much as you want. But she always had a really good face. She always tried to put effort to listen to friends, to meet the friends, to try to understand the friends, even if the cultures of women from UK is really different, no? Of the culture of Jewish Kurdish person of Rojava, northern Syria. But she always have this skill that she always knew how to give value to people, and this is something really important, because she knew how to give value, she knew how to love people, and the people could feel this love. And when you feel it, love it, it's easier for you to give love also. So people really love Hêlîn really much. Everywhere where she went, people loved her really quickly, because she was open for love. She was giving and open for receive love. So I have to say that Şehîd Hêlîn was a really big influence, not only for international people, that I think is a concretely topic, but also for the friends, Kurdish friends, Arab friends that met her here. In the Academy of Kurdish, in the Academy of JPJ, in the front line when she was in front line. All people that met her have intense memories. And I think this is one of the proof that Hêlîn was always a pesheng, what we call pesheng. She was a vanguard.
Initially, both of us planned to come here for 6 months and then to return home to England and carry on the work there. There was a reading group that we were planning to set up, and we decided that we would do a tour of the country, speaking about the revolution here and trying to raise support and awareness. But very early on, Hêlîn started to want to stay longer. I think there were a number of things she was very excited about and really wanted to go and see, particularly the Hepage. She wanted to go and stay with them and live with them and be part of that. And I think she very much liked the revolutionary life. Even when it was being difficult, I think she wanted to keep doing something here and living as part of the revolution, rather than going home and living under capitalism again. I think she would have come home eventually. There were times I worried that she would just choose to stay and retire here forever. But I think she wanted to see what's being built here being built in England as well, and to bring that revolutionary potential home. She called the Hepage Mums with Guns. Anna was always keen to find out about people's families and to look at how those structures were here. And the Hepage essentially are a neighbourhood militia designed so that people aren't relying on centralised security forces like the Asaish, and so they're not relying on the centralised military forces like the YPG and the YPG to defend themselves. And also so that in the future, if there's the development of a centralised authority within Rojava that turns authoritarian, as it were, that there will be a counter to that there will be a significant distributed armed force controlled directly by the people. And so I think she was attracted both to the politics of that as an anarchist, and also to the revolutionary concept of us arming the elders in our community and giving them back the power to defend their community in situations where they're often powerless.
Yeah, in fact, I think even if Hêlîn was really proud to be the institution as a JPG, because all the meaning that it have, because JPG is an institution for the liberation of women, but not only in a military sense, like mostly in the mental and empowering sense. Usually for internationalists, it's really difficult to contribute in a military way. I mean, most of us, we are internationalists are not prepared for go to fight, because it's not, if you are not being in your military at home, usually we don't have knowledge, international people don't have knowledge about this. So I think the contribution that Hêlîn made in the area of, with the internationalist commune, or just giving time to the people, trying to learn Kurdish, when she went to the families, trying to pay attention to their friends, to the moms, try to understand them, try to make like a kind of bridge between the two cultures that can be UK and Rojava Kurdistan. And this was, I think, a most important, or in my opinion, just a most important contribution that what military Şehîd Hêlîn made or not. Like the fact that she built up a bridge between two peoples, even two different cultures that are Western and Middle East, Western Europe and Middle East, and that now had been connected and is giving the opportunity to many, many people to give a step or to understand Rojava revolution in another way.
Di 2018 de dewleta Tirk êrişekî bejahî hewayî bi navê Operasyona Çiqila Zeytûnê bir ser herêma Efrînê. Ana mîna gelek gelên din yên navdewletî biryar da ku beşdarî berxwedana li dijî êrişên Tirkiyeyê bibe.
So, very early on, when the invasion of Afrin began, Hêlîn expressed a desire to go there and to join with the friends there in their resistance against Turkish imperialism. And her commander at the academy was quite strongly opposed to this. Obviously, it was a very dangerous place to be. It was a front where we didn't have air cover and our logistics were very vulnerable. And Hêlîn's commander felt that it was important that she do more education and training and then return to Europe to tell people about the revolution here and to spread the word and the international support for that. But Hêlîn didn't really work like that. Hêlîn was somebody who wanted to be on the front doing the necessary work and definitely not sitting on a back line while others took the risks that were needed to be taken. And so for weeks she applied repeatedly to her commander for permission to go.
She was always pushing to go to the front. She didn't want to be like left out of the front. She wanted to be like where the fighting was the thickest. She really did not want to be left behind. The thing that she kept saying to me was, I've came here to be an internationalist. Being an internationalist to me means that I take part in the struggles with my comrades. Like I shouldn't be like kept separately. I should be treated no differently from anyone else. So they put her at loggerheads with some of the commanders. I think they realised her value as being somebody that was like able to speak, because she was very like eloquent in the way that she worded a lot of things. And obviously because of the background she's come from back in the UK, she's already in the know with a lot of people back in the UK. She's quite well known in a lot of structures back in the UK even prior to coming to Rojava. So I think they saw her as like more than just a fighter, if that makes sense. Like she was more valuable to them as as a fighter, but she wouldn't like accept that at all. She was like, no, like it doesn't matter like what we bring to the table. We're all fighters. I'm not gonna like take myself out of being a fighter just because I can do this when I can do that as well, and I should be doing that. So
yes, I spoke to her several times once the Afrin War had started, and she was just consistently saying that she wanted to go, she was determined to go, and she felt it was important that she went and fought if she could, and that so far she hadn't been able to find a way and she hadn't been allowed to go, and she was struggling against that. She was fighting her own personal struggle to be able to go to the front, which I know that she felt was very important to understand herself, to know herself and to know struggle. And so I know that she was really pushing for that. In the final analysis, I didn't know when that she got to go to the front. She didn't tell us. I imagine, I can guess that she didn't want us to worry. So I didn't actually know when she went to the front line in Afrin, but I knew that she wanted to and was determined to.
And she'd always be trying to like sneak along to Atabor, like trying to like disguise herself or something. I think sometimes it was jovial, but other times she like actually meant that she was going to like sneak to the front with us. Like she genuinely wanted to go like that much, and her commander would be like, no. So yeah, she was one of those that like, even though revolution's not just about like fighting, like it's a struggle, and you should take part in every aspect of the struggle. You shouldn't be like kept out of a single part of the struggle just because you can do things in another part, or you deem to be more valuable than somebody else in a certain aspect of the struggle. You should share like all the hardships together. And yeah, obviously she was pushing very hard to go to Afrin. So even when I didn't see her like on the front, or we weren't at our main noctas in Shidadi, we'd always be like talking to each other, and I'd always be like finding out what was going on, whether or not she was able to like push to go to the front. And I understand she'd organised maybe like 5 or 6 meetings with like the highest commander in YPG to be able to like explain to her in Kurdish why she should be allowed to participate in like the action in Afrin especially. And then after much convincing, her commander agreed that she could go in the end. So she dyed her hair. She obviously made that video that a lot of the people around the world would have seen. And yeah, she managed to like fulfill a dream of like being able to go and like take part at the forefront of the fight against fascism.
لعفرین هر کو دچو برخوادان دجوارتر دبو. ده هر دو هفتین داویین برخوادانه ده پشتی آنا جهیل فرمانداری خو و اصرار کر و هات قبول کرن او بچه عفرینه.
Yeah, so like she was just telling me how bad the bombardment was in Afrin. She was saying like it is really bad, but she was like in really good spirits. She like, you know, she stuck to her convictions. She wasn't scared at all, but she was like worried for her comrades. She was telling me that like her comrades are like struggling like in their morale. They're a bit worried that they're going to lose the city, this and that. They're trying to keep the tanks and everything in the mountains. Like, yeah, so she was just asking for tips like on how to like keep morale up. I think somebody like her and somebody like me, I'm not really like prim and proper, and I don't understand like what's a social faux pas sometimes. So like I'm the guy that just says the thing that nobody else like wants to say, and I'm the guy that sort of like raises spirits without even meaning to. Like I just say like absolutely obscene things sometimes in like a jovial way. So I think she's just after tips on how I could like how she could make them laugh, how she could like cheer them up. And she was also asking me things about like she was in a cave at the time, and she was asking me things about how they could fortify the cave. Like, is there anything that they could do to numb the effects of artillery or airstrikes? And obviously I told her about like what you could do to sort of reinforce the cave, the things that you can do in the cave, and what she should be doing outside of the cave. Obviously just going over the stuff that she already knew for sure, because like she taught me a lot of this stuff. Just like trying to talk to her about like normal things rather than making her think about like some of the stuff.
So Hêlîn was a little over a week in Afrin. At first she went to the city of Afrin itself and was able to visit the grave of Şehîd Kendal, who she knew. And then she was placed in a position overlooking one of the routes out of the city in order to cover the retreat of civilians from the city as Turkish forces closed in. And this was very late in the campaign where the city was being evacuated. The YPG were withdrawing from the urban areas to minimise civilian casualties.
Yeah, I didn't get a response from her, and then it's not uncommon to go like days or like a couple of weeks without speaking to one of your friends that's like a while away. And then obviously I got the news that the reason why she hadn't messaged me back was because her convoy had been hit with an airstrike.
Drojên dawiyên berxwedanê de Hêlîn bi du hevalên xwe re Sara Merdîn û Serhildan di 15 Adarê de gihîşt asta şehadetê. Devera ku ana lê şehîd ketiye, heta dema niha jî ji hêla dewleta Tirk ve dagirkiriye.
The comrades who fell with her were Heval Sara Merdin and Heval Şehîd. I don't think their photos have been released, which is common in situations where releasing the photo of a martyr would lead to relatives of that martyr being targeted by the Turkish state.
Yeah, I mean, it was really huge, and it really changed things. It changed a lot of people's lives. It's a very significant turning point, I think, that things will literally, it's a cliche, but they will literally never be the same again. And it made us realise, I spoke before about this kind of group of people, this community, this connection. It made us like revisit that connection, I think, and come back to it, because we realised how many people were connected by this loss and also by this understanding and respect for what she did and why she was here and the politics of it, and that these things together brought a lot of people together again who had maybe drifted slightly. And also now I've realised, especially since coming to Rojava, just how many people Anna's death impacted upon. It was quite big in the media, and at times that was quite frustrating, like media outlets that have really unsympathetic or dodgy political views kind of capitalising on this white Western woman's death and making this big media drama out of it. It was very frustrating. But I understand a little bit better now that not so much through the mainstream media, but through other connections, people who had never met Anna still really were affected by her story, by who she was. And I've actually met dozens of people now here in Rojava or working in solidarity with North and East Syria and the freedom movement here, who said, I didn't know I could do it. For example, I thought it was only men who used to be in the army. And then I saw this young woman with no previous military experience and who shared my politics, who'd come here and given everything for this revolution, and then I knew that I could do it too.
I don't think like a lot of people would have like felt so personally about the struggle. She had a very good way of like, you know, making normal people understand that this is everybody's struggle. It isn't just like one group of people's struggle. Like, all these struggles are like interconnected, whether it be like the struggle against, you know, just like the capitalist like economical social system, whether it be against fascism, whether it be against nationalism, whether it be for like for women's rights. All these struggles are one struggle. They're not different struggles just because they have like different aspects. They're all fundamentally like trying to fight against the same thing. And yeah, like I say, I know for a fact some of the friends that are here now with me that have, you know, come here in like the last year, like they wouldn't even be here without Şehîd Hêlîn. So she's had such a massive mega impact on leftism as a whole and on organisation. I understand like even friends in my country, like people from a city, they actually started blocking like weapons manufacturing like factories and stuff, and like that's unheard of really in the UK. People aren't normally willing to take that risk. So for her to have had that much of an impact that people are willing to like go to arms factories and block arms factories off, like in solidarity, that like speaks volumes and says a lot about the effect that she's had on leftism, not just in like Britain, but across the whole of the Western world.
I do feel like there's a lot of people have been inspired to come here because of Şehîd Hêlîn. Obviously, several people that I know very soon after she fell, were making preparations to come here. But also there's a number of people that I've met here or who I've read articles by who have said they went because they're inspired by her.
What I can see is Şehîd Hêlîn, many people that come after Şehîd Hêlîn fell, they come because of her influence, because they knew it about her in the media, or they knew it about her through friends of friends, and they came because of this. I don't know how to explain why she has such a huge impact just because she was a vanguard. It's just, I cannot explain it in a rational way. I think she had also a kind of energy and a kind of personality that make her to have a really big impact.
In the same way that Che Guevara, like the face of Che Guevara is like a symbol for revolution, like her face is a symbol for revolution now. People can like look at it and be like, that's Anna Campbell, for sure. So, and I don't think anybody will like ever forget her, and I think leftists, no matter what sort of, you know, leftist ideology they adhere to, I think they owe Anna a lot.
It's always really nice to meet so many of the people who have been touched by her life and her struggle, and who from that have taken the next step to come here and becoming part of this revolution.
I think the really important thing about Shaheed culture that I've learned is that it's not about glorifying death or death being the goal. The goal is life, and we're fighting for life. And we have a lot of enemies because we're fighting for life, and our friends will be taken from us. But that should never be the goal. You know, you should always be fighting to create a better world and to live in a better way within it. And when people are taken from us, we will revenge their deaths. We will get our own back for them, but we will do it in the way that we will build that world that we want to see, not in a way that creates more anger or more bloodshed.